So hello everyone. Also hello my teammates here that join us for this webinar. Uh, Today we're going to talk about the training offers of the Millennium Institute. So how you can build the capacity of yourself and also your team with training offers of the training programs of the Millennium Institute. Today we have here myself. I'm a policy analyst and communications lead. We also have Dr. Esti Miltz. She's a policy analyst, and Igor, policy analyst and business development lead. We also have Matteo here, he's the interim president of MI. So thank you all for joining. I just want to give a brief agenda for today. We're talking a little bit about MI and the Sustainable Development Simulator, also known as the ISD model. Talking about recent publications, but that's a very brief part. And then we're going to present our training offers. And finally, we have a Q&A moment so you can ask your questions. So MI is a nonprofit organization with almost over 40 years of existence. We specialize in policy impact simulation, and we are very committed to educate decision makers in systems thinking and advancing the sustainable development goals. We have experience with over 40 countries, especially in the global south, but we also have experience in Europe, such as Germany, Austria, and France. And I want to talk a little bit about the Sustainable Development Simulator if you don't know yet, or you may know it as the ISDG model or the ISD model or even the T21 model. But all draws to the same place, which is the Sustainable Development Simulator. And the simulator is a system dynamics model that uses real-world data to simulate development scenarios and long-term impact of policies, and integrates the different aspects of economic, social, and environmental factors, so it can provide a systemic policy analysis and strategic planning. What you're seeing in your screen now on the three different circles here, it represents the different sectors that the model includes. So it's 24 sectors in the latest version, spread towards and through in different spheres, such as the economic in red, the social in blue in the center, and environmental in green. You can see sectors such as land, population, firms, transport, material emissions, and they're all connected, meaning that if you change something in the energy sectors, it's going to affect all sectors. So it's everything connected. That's what it means, a system dynamics model. The model includes different frameworks, the Sustainable Development Framework, such as the SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, the Donut Economics, and the planetary boundaries. Many people ask us how incorporating climate change in our simulator. And the model it's not a climate model. It doesn't simulate climate internally, but we take data from external climate data, such as the CCKP and the SSP scenarios. And it captures this climate impacts on different sectors, including agriculture, health, and infrastructure. And it also enables us to test different adaptation and mitigation policies to address these climate risks. In this image, you can see a little bit of how the model works and related to climate change. So we have the scenarios that affect, for example, that have disaster probability, drought probability, that impact directly in business, infrastructure, and later on the access to basic service and economic growth and human health. We are working on a development of a new simulator interface, which soon is going to be available for our users. The user interface, it's a very friendly and intuitive interface, is customizable, and you can see the visual output, such as a graph of your scenarios that you want to analyze. And you'll soon hear more about this interface. I want to talk about just briefly on the recent applications of the ISD model. One has been used by the Monash University for the Sustainable Development to tackle inequality in Australia. and it's showing some pathways to halve poverty in Australia by 2050. And another recent application was in Zambia to address climate threats multipliers in the country, showing that Zambia could improve Human Development Index by 3%, create over 800,000 jobs by 2050 with the different scenarios that was tested there. Just to give you a sense of how it's working with the Millennium Institute, we have different type of projects and approaches to our clients, but the most common one is standard plan that we have. We start with stakeholder consultations, understanding what the client wants to achieve with the model, and identify the unique needs of the country. And then we move on to a data integration part of the project. We gather information from national, international sources to create this accurate scenarios to the specific country that we are working with. Just to give an idea of what sources that we use FAO, the agri-food balances, but we also use from the International Energy Agency. We also use IMF data and the World Health Organization. So we only use reliable sources input in the model. We then run some scenario analysis based with the data, revealing some synergy and trade-offs between the Sustainable Development Goals and other indicators that we may be interested in checking. And finally, the Millennium Institute provides you with some strategic recommendations for the country based on the insights from the model. And throughout this process that I just mentioned, throughout the process of working with the Millennium Institute, we offer training. So people get training on how to use the model and be self-sufficient on using the model and testing different scenarios or even updated the model for the future when the Millennium Institute is not working with the client anymore. But that's what we're digging in today, and my colleagues will mention to you a little bit more in detail the training offers that we have. So now I think ST.
Thank you. Thanks, Fernando. Hi, everyone. So I'll just be presenting very much the current training offers that Millennium Institute offer. And the training is structured into different kind of phases. So, and it's very much adaptable, customizable to client needs. So the first slide, the first course really, you can choose between an academic related program to integrate it into a university, to use the program as part of your PhD, or to join the course that we have with UIB, University of Bergen. So there's different channels through which you can get the training, academic being one of them. And the second one is the custom-made training program that we have. This is very much where we have groups of researchers or policy analysts that want to learn how to use the ISD themselves, and then or want to learn the basics of system dynamics modeling, specifically for sustainable development transitions. So the two channels are very much similar, but they can be offered through different streams, always focusing on the ISD model. So the first kind of course that's offered through academic programs, but also to clients in individual capacity, is System Dynamics Modeling for Integrated Sustainable Development. So what it does is it teaches System Dynamics Modeling to aid sustainability transitions, focusing on policies on social, economic, environmental outcomes. And participants learn to conceptualize, build, and refine models of complex systems, and combining practical case studies together with the Integrated Sustainable Development Simulator. So the length of the course can vary, again, depending on the needs of the client and the research group. So it can vary between 1 week to 2 weeks, sometimes longer, 4 weeks. It can be divided into different phases. So generally, we have an online phase as well as an in-person phase. And the target audience is generally planning officials, government from all levels, NGOs, researchers, early career researchers, postgraduates, specifically masters and PhD candidates, and specifically in the fields of sustainability science, development planning, and public policy. And the course very much starts out with the basics of system dynamics modeling, systems thinking, and thereby teaches the participants how to build basic stock flow diagrams, and then goes into developing different sectoral models for either social, economic, or environmental problems, and then integrating these models. And the next steps would be to advance the training into more kind of lessons on validation, model testing, and so on. Next slide. So the training objectives are very much to understand, to learn the core concepts and notation of system dynamics modeling. Next is to build, using Stellar Architect software, we design and develop model structures together. Then we model fundamental socioeconomic environmental development dynamics. The model is then used to simulate different scenarios. We learn to interpret these results. And finally, we also do validation techniques, how to validate the model, to test robustness of the model structure, and so on. So as I mentioned, the course is split into 2 phases. Normally the online phase, this happens before, around a month before the in-person phase occurs. Again, this is adaptable. Currently it's structured into 4 weeks. It's not full time. It's about 2 hours or 4 hours a week, over 4 weeks, so in total 16 hours. And it builds on the foundational skills in system dynamics. So participants could either have a very brief background of systems thinking, system dynamics, or they can come in with more of a robust background in system dynamics. But very much it covers different levels for all participants. So the first week looks into introduction of system dynamics principles and behavior of complex systems, understanding how models inform development policy. Week 2 explores policy interventions and strategies in socioeconomic systems and leverage points. Week 3 looks at time delays, dynamic complexity, and examining public perceptions and misunderstandings of systemic issues. And finally, week 4 looks at applying integrated modeling to assess these pathways and evaluating scenarios within planetary limits and national development goals. So each exercise every week is accompanied by a small webinar, as well as exercises and readings. And then thereafter, we have the in-person phase. And generally, the in-person phase, it focuses on hands-on model building, scenario analysis, and policy testing. So participants can specifically deepen their understanding of system dynamics through guided exercises and development of sectoral models. So it specifically looks at model conceptualization and formulation, the fundamentals of stocks, flows, delays, feedback loops, table functions, elasticity formulations, how to import and export data, how to validate the model, and then how to run various different scenarios or policies using the model. So the training is not specifically using the ISD, but a condensed version thereof. And participants explore different sectors. So depending on the length and duration of the course, participants cover population, demographics, education, health, infrastructure, firms, households, government, land, and energy dynamics. Now, it all sounds like quite a lot, but it's all broken into different submodels and structures, and participants work through case studies and we co-develop the models together, and then afterwards we break out into groups where participants work on their own models. Thank you. Right, so just our recent training program was actually hosted by, with the Institute of National Planning in Egypt. And this was very much to develop capacity in system dynamics to support sustainable development. The course was held over 3 phases, which were specifically the online phase. Then we had the 10-day in-person training. Thereafter, we also had additional phase, which was handover of that calibrated ISD Egypt model and working with the clients and the participants with the ISD model such that they can apply it in their institute. So this was a very, very interesting exercise. And then in terms of the academic program, we currently have a collaboration with the University of Bergen in Norway. So every year, the course has been taught at the university for over 15 years, and it's part of the Erasmus Mundus System Dynamics training. So various different students from around Europe, the Global South, that partake in the Masters in System Dynamics are exposed to the specific Sustainable Development Modeling course, which is co-hosted through Millennium Institute. So this is very much for master students, but I think also available to students for PhD. So the next class will be in spring 2026. So if you want more information, please get in touch with us.
Thanks, Steve. Moving on to Igor now.
Right. Thank you both. Yeah, gonna talk a little bit about a recent experience we had with the European Commission with the training that didn't have the online phase because we couldn't. Yeah, they were not available to do an online phase, so we did everything in person and in real life, with different directorate generals from different areas of the European Commission. Yes, and this is something that shows a little bit our capacity to customize the programs to different needs. In this case, we were dealing with policy analysts and policy evaluators from many different areas of the policy world, including climate, other areas of environment, biodiversity, energy, defense. Yes, many different areas, and it shows a little bit how we combine this possibility of providing the foundations of system dynamics with some hands-on modeling experience that helps this policy people not only to conduct their own modeling exercises if they want, but also to be able to hire future modeling, have this critical ability of judging what is good modeling and what's. So in the next slide, you see a little bit the goals of this training, which are more or less in line with what ST already presented. Not gonna go through this again, but I guess what's different is this idea of looking at already existing modeling efforts and modeling methods that already exist or coexist in the different institutions, and that need to be integrated to be analyzed more broadly. And system dynamics has this power of this integrative power of connecting together many different models and methods that usually stay in the silos. So in the next slide, what you see is the actual program, the 3 different modules that we had. Before I go through each of them, I guess it's important to say that each participant, or they could work also in small groups if they prefer, but they had the possibility of developing their own model throughout the program. And us as facilitators, we also developed a model throughout the program to showcase a little bit the steps, how we go from doing qualitative research in the very beginning, defining a dynamic problem in the very beginning of the process, already initiating a data gathering strategy from day one, because we know that in institutions like the European Commission, sometimes data gathering takes long, and you need to anticipate the need for data. That's why we talk about initial data strategy already in the first module. So the first module is really defining a dynamic problem that can be analyzed through a model. It's creating a hypothesis on why this problem exists, why it repeats itself as a chronic problem. And then starting to look at the data strategy that we're gonna use to later on test the model and validate the model. And that's precisely what we teach in the second module. So we look at the different possibilities for model formalization, which is the actual equations in the model. And then we go through parameterization, sensitivity analysis, and calibration, which are tools that are used in the realm of model testing in system dynamics, so that they have this experience of experiencing, the whole cycle of model building and testing. Finally, in the third module, we speak a little bit more about policy. So we create policy scenarios together for each of these models that the participants are building, and also for the sample model that we are creating. And we speak a little bit about the strategy to actually integrate these models to their real life policy processes, right? And we discuss a little bit the strategy to also integrate with other methods and other tools that already exist. Each participant leaves the room at the end of the program not only with a model that they started to develop and that they take sometimes to a much more advanced phase than what they expected, but also with a plan to actually start institutionalizing that specific model and the method in their own institutional structures, which they're part. So it's really hands-on, although, looking at this program, it might seem a little bit theoretical, but it's really a hands-on process in which they live with concrete outputs that they can use to enhance their professional practice as policy analysts or evaluators. So that's really our experience there with the European Commission. In the next slide, there's a picture. Sorry, I forgot about this one. There's a picture in the classroom that shows really this, hands-on environment in which everybody is helping each other. It's a round table. We are often going around the table to help each of the participants with their modeling, with their strategies, and so on. So it's really, really a collaborative environment that we create, and that often helps to create a community in the institution, right? A community of modeling practitioners that sometimes didn't even know each other before the course. And by doing something together, they really bond and start seeing through these possibilities of integrating different models and using system dynamics as a common language. Yes, so I hope we sparked some curiosity and some interest. The 43 people that are now watching, we have the possibility of scheduling a demo session on our website. You can sign up for a demo. You'll be assigned a member of the Millennium Institute team to have a half-hour conversation with you, either on specific aspects of the simulator or the training program or any other aspect you might want to talk about. I guess, that's basically what we wanted to show today. 25 minutes on, but we are, of course, super happy to answer to any questions or comments that you might have in the next minutes. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Igor. I already see some questions here. Maybe we can start. And since you guys, the attendees can use the Q&A feature to ask question, but if you don't find it, you can also leave in the chat your question and we'll get it answered. The first question that I have here, it's what month in the spring would be offered Bergen course? Matteo, do you know it? Do we already have the dates? Could you share that?
Hello, everyone. Yes, it's normally early spring. So the dates are fixed once the first and second semester program in Bergen is decided. So for 2026, it will likely be late January, but we can't confirm right now exactly what week the course will start.
We can share, as soon as we have more details, we can share that, Matteo. We can leave this list of attendees as specifically more interested in the courses.
Sure.
And I'm seeing here, Edward is asking, he's from the Circular Economy Task Force of the Office of the Prime Minister in Cote d'Ivoire. And he's asking, do you have any partnerships, partner university in Africa? Do we?
Oh, this is a very good question. It is because we recognize the importance of having a partner university in Africa, given that a lot of our work is based in Africa. We are trying to build such a partnership. We've been collaborating in the past in Senegal, in Dakar, with the National University, but right now that it's not an operational partnership anymore. And we have been discussing with the ST, of course, about possibility in South Africa. ST is based in South Africa. And we've also been discussing about the possibility of collaborating with NCA in Abidjan, which we know it's the leading school of economics and statistics in Western Africa. So we'll be delighted to discuss options in Abidjan as well.
Matteo, can you maybe briefly mention the ongoing project that we have in Cote d'Ivoire?
All right. Yes, sort of. I gave it for granted, but we do have an ongoing project with the government in Cote d'Ivoire, which is about assessing the impact of different climate scenarios on not only the national development in general, but more specifically on the government accounts, government finances, and therefore the vulnerability of government finances to climate shocks. So it's in the context of this project, again, that we are exploring the possibility of this collaboration with NCA.
Okay, thanks, Matteo. I'm seeing here a question from Ebrahim asking for the French transcript. I don't think I could activate the translation for this specifically webinar, but I'm just bringing your question and also taking advantage of this comment that our team speaks several languages. So although the model itself is not in different languages, I think we have English and French, but we do have skills in different languages as Portuguese, Arabic, Spanish, and French to the teaching courses. Sorry, I lost you guys.
Yes, thank you, Fernando. That's why a lot of us you can use multiple languages for training, especially French, given the lot of work that we do in Western Africa.
Can you guys just give me a second? I'll need to restart my sharing screen. Yeah.
I can take some more questions while you're.
Do you see the questions, Steve?
Yeah, I can see them. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Should we answer?
Yeah. So we have quite a few in Q&A, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a few more in the chat. So let's move to the Q&A and then the chat.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Do you want to move on? The second one was from Nicolas.
Yeah. He's asking how much our models align with the EN roads or C roads. And are you planning to develop an ambassador program like the Climate Interactive in using your models?
The question is who should answer. I can talk a little bit, but I guess all others can also answer that. Yes, we are in constant conversation with Climate Interactive. We've been applying to some funding together and reflecting on possibilities for further integration of the models. Yes, their model, En-ROADS, is a synthesis of climate models that exist out there. So it does reproduce some of the mainstream climate scenarios, which we also use in our modeling as an input. So they are naturally aligned because they're after replicating the same climate scenarios. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's the summary of this conversation. But of course, there's a lot of different ways to integrate models. And about the idea of the ambassador program, we have a slightly different approach compared to Climate Interactive. Their ambassador program is for just anybody who wants to spread the word about climate change and climate modeling, right? We work through policy people in the different countries. So that's a little bit more focused. We do, though, have plans on creating a community of practitioners, of policy practitioners of system dynamics modeling, and to be able to engage with these people in different situations, such as validating different aspects of the modeling, forking the model for different applications. So that's something that is in our roadmap. Although, honestly speaking, it's something that is quite difficult to find the money for, because no one is really willing to pay for this type of groundwork. It's more often that we find money for direct applications of the model.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, Igor. So yeah, we very much try to collaborate with other IAMs out there, integrated assessment modeling teams, who do different forms of modeling. So very much we're in touch with the En-ROADS, C-ROADS team. And so the thing is, the models sometimes are applied to very different contexts. So En-ROADS also has a very big global focus, whereas ISD, for instance, has a very big national focus. So it's very much applied at a country level. So yeah, it very much depends on the context of the projects, but we really like to integrate also with other modeling teams out there.
Thanks, Steve. I was taking a look here in the chat in the Q&A, and I see some question about the price for the Bergen course. But do you have any information of the pricing and how people can attend?
Sure. Well, first of all, I like to be very straight and be able to tell you, oh, it costs $500 or it costs $1,000. Truth is that the cost really depends on two factors: the duration of the training and the number of participants. So in the case of the Bergen course, of course, the course tends to be reduced for students from the European Union because they're part of the common educational space, and they can access the courses at the University of Bergen, paying just very modest fees. Students from abroad, the rest of the world, will have to pay the equivalent of, I think, half of a semester fee, which can be quite substantial. In that case, it's perhaps best to participate to other courses that we offer outside the University of Bergen, where the fees are more reduced.
Thank you, Matil. I see another question here from Mahamadi. Is it possible to have online participation for a free auditor for the Bergen University courses? So I believe you need to register when the call, when the offer students open for the class of spring. You can, I don't think you can have a free participation as a free auditor, and it's the modeling done a desktop-based software only an online simulator. The model itself, it's based on a desktop computer or software. You need that. It's not only online, although the interface, you can access it online. And moving on for the next question. And so this is done. Any experience or projects or applications in Ethiopia?
I guess now that Matteo is here, all the questions will be redirected to him. But yeah, it's 2015, right, Matteo? That's
I was going to say about 10 years ago. About 10 years ago. The modeling at that time was quite different with respect to what we do now. Of course, the nature of the modeling is the same, but the level of detail and complexity of what we do has very much changed over the last 10 years. If you have any special idea about applications in Ethiopia, I'm happy to discuss.
Yeah, this specifically more related to the model itself. It would be great, to request a demo in our website where we can go over to what we have done in the country, talk a little bit of the experience we have there, and what would be the approach to further future steps in the country. And I'm seeing other questions here from Suleiman. He's asking, very happy to see you again, teacher Matteo. Is it possible to have specific program for PhD related to model extension and review with my support for specific program training?
That's a very good question. We are having regular sessions for researchers that work with the ISD model in its various versions. The next one we are planning to host will be in October in Spain. And this training, typically it's scheduled over 2 weeks. In 1 week, we do cover a number of theoretical aspects that mostly have to do with recent advanced in the methodology and in our modeling, more practically, and combine that with actual hands-on work on the researchers' projects. So to address specific issues that researchers have and look for ways to address those issues and produce interesting scenarios. So second half of October in Spain, we're going to have that type of training.
Yeah, thank you, Matteo. I see a very interesting comment here in the chat from Ephraim. He's from Gabon. And he's saying that he's worked for the Ministry of Planification and Foresight 1 year ago, and they built the T21 model. But he's saying that we need to deep our training program in Gabon, so what should we do? And I would say that you should definitely contact us, Ephraim.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you're, hammering on the right nail here. It's clear that when you do develop a model of that complexity and that has so many potential applications, in order to really exploit it, you need to go deep with the training. And that takes time. We know by experience that with this type of training, you can reach a certain level of advancement. But if you really want to exploit all the potential of this model, you have to roll your sleeves and combine more training with a lot of practice with using the model. So please get in touch and we see what we can do about it.
I see one question here that ST could maybe answer. Is, hello, after training with you, we will be able to modify the ISD model?
Sure. Yeah, so it depends the level of training that we gave you. So with online training, no, you will not be able to just simply modify the ISD model, because the online simply gives an introduction to systems thinking, system dynamics. Then the in-person course that we taught over 5 to 10 days very much is built on a condensed version of the ISD. So it's not the ISD model itself, but it gets participants comfortable with the method, and therefore to be able to apply the method. So once they then have the ISD model, they can more easily understand it, more easily use it. So in that sense, yes, once you've gone through the in-person training, you have more hands-on capability of doing the modeling yourself, understanding the model, running the model, and potentially adapting the model. In the case of Egypt, we had an additional 5 days where we specifically worked with the ISD model and the researchers. So it's very much dependent on the client's needs. Yeah, but generally after the in-person training, it gives you more capacity to understand and to use the model.
Thanks, Christine. Matteo, I think you mentioned this possible course in Spain, and someone is asking if Mahdi is asking, is online participation for that session in Spain possible?
No. We could, set up a computer and a camera for you to join online, but the truth is that the performance of this type of training decreases substantially when you participate online versus being there in person. So I don't think it's a good use of your money to be there online for this one in Spain, because it's really hands-on work, and you want to be there. We'll be working shoulder to shoulder, discussing things and comparing models with other participants. So physical participation is essential there to be really effective.
Thanks, Matteo. And I see other question here. Any specific application to simulate and country level circular economy transition? Can you guys get that one? Any specific application to simulate and country level circular economy transition?
Yeah. There are some, and I guess one good idea, Fernando, is to post the chat. I'll do it right now. Our publications page.
Sure. Yeah.
We do have some projects in that space, the circular economy space, or related topics, material footprint. So yes, I can mention perhaps a recent application in Germany in which the material footprint of the country was a key concern, although the modeling was broader. We had a concern with this interface between materials and energy transition, so that when the country does its energy planning, it also considers circularity, decrease in material footprint. But yeah, we do have other projects that touch upon the topic. Maybe you guys have more examples of them.
Thanks, Igor. There's a very interesting question here from Mahmadi again. He's asking, for someone who wants to start from scratch in the ISD modeling, what program could you advise?
Yeah, maybe I can answer this question. Again, if you just want a quick answer, we could say the online course, it's a good starting point. But in fact, a lot depends on what are your goals, what is the level that you want to reach. If you are just an individual that is interested in this, or as a group of people, like a team, for instance, that wants to be trained on the modeling. And of course, based on the amount of resources that you have, because in online course, it's certainly quicker and easier and cheaper, but course, in person, it's always more effective.
Thanks, Matil.
So Fernando, I noticed a question that we may have skipped. It's from Humberto. It's about the government of, asking if we have contact with the government of Mozambique.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Can
Yeah.
you go ahead and maybe read out loud?
Sure, I can read it. Yeah. Emma had a sound contribution to the Agenda 2025. Mateo and Veshang did a great job. Has MI any further contact with the government of Mozambique? Forward to that example in the elaboration of the current national development strategy. Mateo?
Okay, hello, Humberto. Sorry I didn't see your message. Nice that you're participating to this workshop. Very nice to hear from you. And also thanks for the comment. Right now, we do not have any collaboration with the government of Mozambique. We have been working with some of the neighboring countries, and also ST is based in South Africa, and she's doing a fantastic effort there, but not in Mozambique. But I'll be happy to have a little chat when you have time.
Another great idea, Humberto, for you to schedule a demo session with us. If you know the model, we don't necessarily need to go over the model. We can discuss other ideas and potential partnerships in Mozambique. Moving on to other questions here. I see Prudence asking, can the T21 ISD model review waste or mismanagement of public assets?
Yeah, I can take that. So the whole idea of the model is that you be able to analyze synergies and trade-offs across policy areas, right? So in that sense, it will be able to also analyze it in terms of policy areas that are overfunded potentially to achieve the goals that you have in your national development plan or to achieve the SDGs, right? Yes, so in that sense, the model helps you to calibrate or optimize your public spending in terms of its effectiveness, in terms of your own national development goals or the SDGs more broadly. We do have, and I know when discussion comes, people are not only referring to effectiveness, but they're also referring to efficiency. So we do have that consideration in the modeling as well, in terms of governance, corruption, and other aspects that can drain public resources. So yes, both from an effectiveness perspective and from an efficiency perspective, the model can help you with that. Happy to discuss more if you have a more specific question.
Thank you, Igor. I have another question here. Maybe ST can take this one. Is in Central Africa and especially in Gabon, we have a huge problem with our data. So it's difficult to get accurate results. So how you can handle this problem?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of data, yes, data scarcity can be quite a problem across different government departments. There's always gaps, and sometimes there's a lot of gaps in the data and so on. So what we do to overcome this is we first have a entire data set for the country based on international data. So this is generally from reliable sources such as UN statistics, the IEA, International Energy Agency, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and generally these organizations collect the data from the national partners themselves. So first we try to get an overview of what international data is there. Then when we have gaps in the international database, we try to speak more directly to the country ministers in order to get more national data. So if it is that there's data gaps, we can fill it with international data sources. Alternatively, speak more directly to stakeholders in the country. If there's no data at all, the thing about system dynamics is we can develop proxies in order to measure the kind of problem that we would like to represent. So yeah, data is not generally the limiting factor. Yeah, it is something that you can work with.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Steve.
maybe just to complement and building on the last point that Steve made, sometimes a system dynamics model or specifically the ISD model can be used precisely in the context of data scarcity, right? To be able to understand the possible futures of the country without having to rely on data-driven approaches, right? Because system dynamics is a structure-driven type of modeling approach, meaning that we try to understand the structure of the systems that drive certain certain trends, and by doing that in a disciplined way with proper validation of the models that we build, we rely less on data compared to other approaches that are more data driven. So that can be in some circumstances can be an advantage of our model compared to other alternatives.
Thank you, Igor. I see we have other two questions here. And Mahmoud, I think it's pasting a question from Suleiman. And he's asking what news about the climate finance issue for the model. And do we take account, for example, tax carbon in the model?
Yeah, I can touch on that, and then you can expand on it, possibly Mater. So in terms of, I think climate finance is a very, very topical issue around the globe, and something that we very much want to expand our research into. So the past project we did was with UNDP in Zambia. We looked at different climate pathways, how climate change is impacting national development goals. And then we tested various different climate mitigation, climate adaptation investments pathways, and how these investments could mitigate these impacts on the national goals. And the thing about this is that we didn't necessarily then structure where the finance is coming from. We had assumptions because Zambia has such a limited fiscal, such a constrained fiscal space. We made assumptions that, you know, a lot of the climate finance is FDI, so foreign direct investments, with a portion thereof coming from public funding. But a whole new, additional phase of the research could be to test different finance options. You know, what could be possible, where could finance come from? So that's one example of how we take this into account. And a second example is we did an analysis of green hydrogen, integrating green hydrogen into national economies in Brazil, South Africa, and Namibia. And in this case, we looked at how can we facilitate or implement a higher uptake of green hydrogen. One of the policies that we tested was carbon taxes, fossil fuel penalties, etc. So it very much allows, the ISD allows us to explore these different avenues by doing adaptations to the model structure.
That's great. Thanks, Steve. And I'm seeing a final question here from Modi. He's asking from Nigeria, and he's saying, can you work with a local team to develop a subnational development model?
Yeah, maybe I can just give a short answer here. Thank you, Modi, for the good question. As you know, we've been working in Nigeria with the federal government in the past and developed model for the whole Nigeria. And of course, there's a clear understanding that a lot of relevant policy making in Nigeria happens at the state level, and therefore the necessity there to develop subnational models. Of course, this is not technically difficult purely from a modeling standpoint. In fact, some of the states that are part of Nigeria are larger than some nations elsewhere. So that's not, the problem is not the scale, the problem is often the data. Because, you know, at the subnational scale, especially some financial flows are very difficult to track. But yeah, with that little extra effort along the lines that ST mentioned, to use proxies where the data is not available, and make smart assumptions, it certainly can be done.
Thanks, Matil. One final question from Philip. We will be attending the COP30 in Belém, Brazil. I don't think we have plans to attend, but if I'm wrong, correct me, Matil. Right now, we don't really have a plan, right?
We don't really have a plan yet. Igor, will you be in Brazil in November?
There is a chance, yeah, that I might join, yeah. But it's not concrete yet. Let's see. If you have any avenues for us, Philip, let's talk about it.
Yeah, thank you, Igor. So thank you everyone for joining us today. This was a really insightful webinar. If there's any other question that you still have and want to contact us, you can always schedule a demo with us. You just go to our website, millenniuminstitute.org, and there is a button here. There you can request a demo session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Igor, Steve, Matteo, for joining me today. And yeah, have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Thanks, Fernando.
Likewise.
There's one more question for Matteo.
Oh, let me see. We have 3 minutes.
It's that
I was already doing it today, and then you're too good an observer.
The hardest questions come in the end.
Yeah.
But I can take one of those just very briefly. Prudence asks about data again and how much they can compromise the accuracy of projections. Normally, they don't compromise accuracy. If we manage to have at least the minimum level of data availability that is necessary for the calibration of the model. Once the system dynamics model is calibrated within and passes the tests that are involved in that step of the process, the model is then less dependent on data compared to other approaches. So, but I must say, Prudence, that accuracy in terms of numerical accuracy is not our first concern in system dynamics models, right? We are mostly about showing the trends, the scenarios that would play out if different investments are made in different portfolios of policies. That's our main focus. It's not really about getting the exact GDP estimate for next year, right? So this is not our primary concern. Although, yeah, the calibration process takes care of a lot of that. All right. There's one more, I guess, about taxes. Yes, we do help countries with fine-tuning their taxation to achieve the SDGs, not only their taxation, but their financing strategy as a whole, right? Because sometimes the question is not only about how to tax, but it's also about how to balance different forms of financing for the SDGs. Meaning you have tax, you have foreign direct investment, you have grants, you have multilateral players that can partially fund your sustainable development planning. So yes, you can use the model to try and balance out all of that to achieve a better SDG performance. That's one of the types of analysis that you can do. All right. Guess I killed the last two. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening.
Bye.